Hello, I'm Ross Stagnitti with Canal Town Commentary, a series of Canastota stories to be archived at the Education Building on Canal Street and at the Public Library on Center Street. Today is July 12th, 2023. I'm at Chapman Park in the town of Sullivan on the south shore of Oneida Lake. It's the site of the Canastota High School's class of 1963's 60th reunion, one of the last classes to graduate from Peterboro Street School.
Okay, we are the Raiders, mighty, mighty Raiders. Everywhere we go, people want to know who we are. So we tell them, we are the Raiders, mighty, mighty Raiders. Everywhere we go, people want to know so who we are. So we tell them, Raiders.
Go Raiders!
Raiders.
The name will be changed.
Name will be changed.
Okay. All right, I'm first. I'm ready?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm Marlene Pickard Ackerman. I was raised on Indian Opening Road, Canastota, and now I live Lewis Point Road, Canastota. Ta-da. That's it. I'm done.
Barb Bikert. I lived on Oneida Creek when I was in high school, and I live on near Kenlock Point Road now in Canastota. So not too far from where I was before.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth Betsy Powers Noonan, and I grew up at 328 North Peterboro Street in Canastota on the north side. And now I live in Binghamton, New York, where I've lived for 50 years. And there's a part of me that's still living at 328 because my wonderful nephew, Connie Finicaro, and his wife, not Connie, I'm sorry, Trace Finicaro and his wife bought the house, and they're fixing it up, and so part of me still lives there.
Hi, I'm Jean Barris. I lived on Schoolheimer Road when I was in high school until February when our house burned and when I lived 2 doors from the high school. Now I live in Kirkville.
My name is Linda Siemens, and I lived on South Peterboro Street when I was a senior, and I now live way far away in Wamsville on North Court Street.
Hi, I'm Sis Sullivan. I grew up at 208 Prospect Street, Canastota, New York. Right now I live on Lakeshore Road, South Canastota, New York.
Audrey Wilcox. Audrey Chrisman Wilcox. I lived on Weiss Road in Canastota, now I live in Oneida.
Hi, I'm Christine Lloyd. I grew up on West Hickory Street in Canastota, and I currently live in Manlius, New York.
Hi, Diane Argentine Patney. I lived on Peterboro Street in Canastota, and I'm still in Canastota, but I'm out on Nelson Road.
Duke Emmy, living in Canastota all my life, and I still live there. I love it.
Hi, I'm Ron Farfalia. I was born and raised at 117 Catherine Street in Canastota, New York. I now live in New Hartford at 36 Wadsworth Road.
Don New, raised on Route 5, Canastota, live Forbes Road, Canastota. Have a good day.
Hi, Louis Finicaro, born and raised 300 North Main Street in Canastota. Presently live at 62 Park Terrace in Sherrill.
Hello, I'm Craig Taylor. I live in Canastota, and I'm very, very happy to be 78 years old and on top of the grass.
I am John Bibick. I live down by Oneida Lake. I went to Canastota School, and it was great. Had a great time.
Hello, my name is Richard Kelly. I lived in Canastota in 1963, and I live in Canastota today. Thank you very much.
Hi, I'm John Sebastian Patney. I grew up on New Boston Street, 303 till the age of 5, moved to 222 Prospect Street after that, and I still live in Canastota 77 years later.
Carl Penn, Court Street in Wampsville, and I'm now on the foot of Burleson Hill in the town of Lincoln. The only 2 places I've lived in my whole life. So.
Very good. And the gym balcony. You could overlook the gym, and we all met in the balcony. That was a great thing. And like after football and basketball games, you go down to Emmy's Lunch and that, get a Coke with everybody. It was a great thing. And one time we really had a little trouble. A few guys from the class, they went into the school at night. And they locked all the doors on the inside. They were push doors. The next morning we went to school, nobody was in school. The line was way down to Canal Street. Nobody could get in school. Nobody, what happened? What happened? They went in, they locked all the doors. They put Mrs. Abramson's desk upstairs. Okay, finally, they opened the doors. We get in school. I'm in Mrs. Daniels' class upstairs in the study hall. No windows in this place. And she says, everybody in the school, get out a piece of paper. Because the guys that broke into school, they wrote Happy Halloween on the gym floor with books from the library. And nobody could spell Halloween. Either could we. We're asking our friends, two L's, two E's, nobody could spell Halloween. And so we all had to do it. We all had to turn the paper in.
Duke, I remember you in that study hall, which had no windows, and today that would be considered cruel and unusual punishment.
That's right.
Child abuse or whatever.
That's right.
But I distinctly remember being in Miss Daniels' study hall, and you were up there almost every day getting tutored in math. Is that correct?
Math. Yeah, she always helped me. She always helped me. And I ended up being a math major in college.
Terrific.
And I love the math. And I love the math. Very good.
Thank you.
A lot of fond memories.
I'm now with Barb Bikert, class of 63, and Barb told me that there's a family connection to the Ringling Brothers Barnum and Bailey Circus. Barb?
Yes, my father and his father brought some of the Ringling actors over from Europe just before the war, and they were in the circus for a while, and my grandmother was a high wire walker for a little while, and she became ill and got tuberculosis, and she couldn't do that any longer, so she had a dog act afterwards, and my father took the dog act over when she got too bad, and my father was only probably 15 at the time when he took that over. And he hated the circus, though. He did not like that life, and he always said when he had children they were going to be brought up in a regular family setting and that. But I have pictures and different things of the family that with my grandmother's act, and my father. I have some pictures with my father with the dog act up on the stage. He was very, very young when she passed away, and so they didn't stay in it too long. But when my dad was born, they went down to his winter gardens and near. Also, it was Sarasota, where the Circus Hall of Fame is, and my mother put a lot of the costumes and different articles that she had collected from the circus. And when we were kids, we used to wear them as Halloween costumes. And she had them stored in a trunk up in the attic, and we used to use them. But she sent most of that stuff down to the Circus Hall of Fame in Sarasota, and that. And my father's godfather is Al Ringling, and that's who he was named after, Al Ringling. And
so as a child, you knew that there was some circus background in the family. Did you ever wish that maybe...
Yeah, I did. I was excited about it when I was a kid. My father used to be able to do handstands on the chairs in the kitchen. And I always wanted to be an acrobat.
You had a photo that you showed me.
Yeah. This is this is the picture. This is just a picture. My granddaughter has the original. And this is a picture of Al Ringling and one of the ladies that... Oh. Okay. And that's Al Ringling's signature on the... it's not the birth certificate. It's what do they call it? It's a.
It says
baptismal.
Baptismal. Okay.
Yeah, it's baptismal.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So.
Kind of windy out here right now.
So it's always been kind of a little proudness of me anyway, of the family being some relation to somebody that was, in that respect. So I enjoyed that.
Well, thank you very much.
Yeah, you're
Appreciate
welcome.
What do you want me?
We're here with Jean Barris Taylor, and a member of the class of 1963, and she has some questions that she'd like to have answered about the Barris family.
Correct. My uncle. My grandfather. Excuse me. My grandfather. He was born in 1888, and he came to the United States in about 1899. And then I know he went back, and then he came back again, married my grandmother, and they settled in Belfry, Kentucky, where they had 4 children. Then he remarried, and he had 2 more children. And then in 1930, for some reason, he left Kentucky and ended up in the town of Lenox on Route 13 on a farm that he bought from Wallace Kimpton. And there's the picture of it from the Bee Journal.
Now, where would that be in relationship to, like, where
Lewis Point Road and
Okay.
13, right on the corner.
Oh, yeah.
Right on the corner of Lewis Point Road. And then he ended up having 4 more children. So he had a total of 9 children. Okay? And he died in 1941, and at which point my grandmother, Mary, moved the family into Canastota, and they finished growing up there in town, the aunts and uncles. All the aunts and uncles have passed away. So now I have no way of finding out why and how did he hear about Lenox and Canastota. Who in Canastota did he know? We don't know. Something had to bring him here.
Sure.
He was a coal miner. He lived in coal mining area of Kentucky.
Unfortunately, our parents' generation are gone.
Correct.
I mean,
That's the issue.
I have one friend who has his mother. She's 96. I don't know of any other classmate of mine that still has a parent living.
My mother is 98, and she's at the point now where she wouldn't know what's going on either. So, I mean, I got some paperwork. We've done some genealogy, so we know we've traced stuff through census and stuff. But if there's somebody out there who knows, I would love to hear from you.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
I appreciate you doing this too, Russ.
Okay, that's fun.
Thank you.
That's
Have fun. Thank you.
You have to thank the Dunbars.
Well, the Dunbars
they're
and
the professionals.
the Dunbars and I are going to get up with them later on because of Jean Dunbar and Whitelaw.
Jean was in my mother's class of 43.
That was my mother. She was Jean Felker.
My mother probably knew her too.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm here with Lou Finicaro, class of 1963. And Lou, when I was probably an 8th grader, maybe a freshman, I remember a Canastota Oneida game where you caught the winning touchdown. You have a recollection of that? You must.
Oh boy, do I remember that. Oneida and Canastota was always the biggest rivalry for Canastota, and I remember we would go to Friday night dances, and Miss Firth would always usher all the football players home at 9 o'clock, made sure we got home on time. And then this was always the highlight of the year. If we had a 0-6 record, if you beat Oneida, then that was a winning season. But fortunately that year, we won the league championship and we beat Oneida, so it was a tremendous year. Pinky Schmidt, infamous coach, playing with Gary Hall, Donnie Ackerman, Emmy, Louis Bettino. It was really a fun time, and we were juniors, but it was really the highlight of my career in high school. I enjoyed it very much.
And at that time, Canastota was maybe the smallest school in the Tri-Valley League.
Exactly.
And Oneida was a city school.
Right. And I remember before the games, a lot of times the people from Oneida and even VVS would bring their bags of onions and throw them on the football field, and just to egg the rivalry on. And then when we would win, or whoever would win, we would get in caravans and paint the score on the cars and ride to Oneida and blow the horns and go all over. It's really a lot of fond memories.
Now you live in Sherrill now.
Yeah, I live in Sherrill.
And there was a rivalry with VVS, but nothing like Oneida.
Nothing like Oneida, no.
And the thing back then was, we had Henny Motors and we had some other businesses in town where Oneida people worked in Canastota. Canastota worked at Night of Limited and,
Right.
and wherever. And so parents knew each other very well, and that kind of helped develop that rivalry.
Oh, exactly. Like I say, that your year was a success if you beat Oneida, very much so.
But I do remember that touchdown.
So do I.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
What do you want me to say?
Our next victim.
Yeah, here we go.
This is Don New, class of '63. Don, I remember you in the old Peterboro Street School.
Yep.
In the gymnasium.
Those are the
on
days.
the wrestling mats. Tell us about your coaches.
Well, I was lucky to have some great coaches. I mean, men that really inspired me, and Bill Sharp probably comes to mind first of all. He went to Cornell, and he wanted me to go to Cornell, and I was lucky to attend Cornell. And he always was like a second father to me. He was real good friends with my dad, and he took the pictures at my wedding. He was an assistant principal at the end of his career. He was my wrestling coach. He coached football, and he was a real taskmaster. You got to be tough to do things in wrestling, and he was tough.
He was old school, right?
Oh, tough, yeah. If you talk back to him, boom. And then also right by the locker where I put on my clothes for football was the door to Pinky Schmidt's office. He'd give me the business every day, but he was a great guy. When I came back from college and started teaching at Canastota, there was Pinky, and I was going to Syracuse to get my MBA, and Pinky would call me to sub all the time, and he was really another inspirational guy. He went to Colgate, and then came and did tremendous things in Canastota.
Well, it was because of him that the nickname was the Red Raiders, and the school colors were maroon and white. And I don't know what they're going to be
right
in the future.
But that's Colgate all the way.
Right.
And he was from Colgate, and we've talked about in Canastota having a athletic hall of fame, and those are two guys that belong in it.
Right.
Pinky and Bill Sharp, and then Bob Beal was Bill Sharp's assistant, and he took over the head wrestling job when Bill retired and went on to administration. And a lot of guys really loved Bob Beal, and he did fantastic things with kids. He would, there's a good guy on the Wall of Distinction, Scott Newberry, who donated a award, the Bob Beal Award, because Bob was inspirational to him when Scott was a freshman quarterback of the team. And then that team went on great things. It was Bergie's first team when Bob Borgononi, I coached with Bob at the end, and there's a guy that loved Canastota. He loved kids, and he just did a lot for the young people. And I was glad that I got a chance to coach with him. I wasn't much of a football player because I was so small, but I grew to really like and respect all of those guys I mentioned.
I forgot to mention, you're a Wall of Distinction inductee, and I believe this year, or was it last year, Sally Snow, she was included, right?
Sally, we tried to nominate her last year. Sis Sullivan called me and said that the class of '63 should be dedicating some of these people for the Wall of Distinction. And Sally was a great person. She was down at Ithaca, and she and her husband, they had pharmacies. And I used to go see her when I was a student at Cornell. And she did wonders for the class of '63. She just was a great person, a lot of fun. We used to have good times when we were in high school. And I never dated, but I used to be in parties with Sally and all the different girls. This is a good group of girls, the class of '63.
It's a good class.
Yeah, and So Sally made the wall distinction this year. And also we got Ernie Emmy, who's Duke Emmy's father, did wonderful things for Canastota. And it's a good group of people that go in. A lot of people. You should be in there, Ross.
No, no,
Yeah.
no, 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 no. Don't even go there. Stop.
No.
Let's end it with congratulations.
People who have
No,
achieved like
no,
Ross.
no.
And I feel the same way about my being on there. I said, what am I on there?
This was not a paid political announcement, by the way. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
This is Diane Argentine Patney, class of '63, and I remember Diane as a majorette when we had quite a band.
We had a marvelous band. A lot of our classmates were in it, and we had Lee Wright was our band leader, and he had confidence in me that I didn't have, and he made me head majorette at a very early age, and it was like kind of scary because the girls that I was with, the other majorettes, were 2-3 years older than I was, but anyhow. We had a great time, and to this day, I'm still friends with those girls, the majorettes.
Did you twirl a baton?
Yep, I twirled baton.
That
yes.
seems to be kind of a lost art.
Yeah, I think so.
I mean, there's the
Yeah.
color guards with the banners and whatever, but I don't see
Yeah.
people twirling batons anymore.
See them on television once in a while,
Right.
but that's about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was a good time. The things I remember about school, other than really having some great teachers and good experiences in school, was the social activity with my classmates. Really look forward to like the Friday night dances.
Oh, sure.
I don't know, we pay a
Do you remember?
quarter?
Do you remember a quarter? Yeah, it was
Quarter
25
to
cents to
get
get in. It was in the old gym.
Yes.
And there was still a balcony, and people could go up there
Yes.
and they could spectate or whatever.
And you danced and you had a good time and something to look forward to. And of course, the proms, they were like a big event, and I used to really look forward to that. I mean, fortunately, I had a lot of nice dates to go to these, and you dressed for them. You went out and you bought your prom dress and your heels and all the good stuff. So that was a nice experience.
But the dances were always in the gym.
They were always in the gym. The crepe paper would would create the walls between the pillars.
Right.
To make it a little bit more intimate, we had a crystal chandelier, that kind of thing. It was really a good time.
But no limousine.
No limousines.
I mean,
No limousines at all.
today is a different,
Yeah, but
different
I
scene.
will say this, for the senior ball, I went with someone older, who is now my husband,
Oh.
John Patney.
He's not that much older.
2 years.
Okay.
Anyhow, I asked him to go to my senior ball because obviously I was a senior, he was in college.
Yeah.
And he said yes. And John S. Patney thought we should go to the prom with his father's T-Bird.
Oh.
So
Was it a convertible?
Yep. So we took the T-Bird to that senior ball, and the rest is history. We got
Yeah.
married. and-
Very nice.
Yeah.
Now, you have children and grandchildren.
Yes.
How would you compare your high school experience or even elementary experience with your kids and grandkids? What's changed?
I don't know. I think we had really nice relationships with teachers, more so than I observed my kids or my grandchildren having. There were exceptions, don't get me wrong. One was absolutely marvelous in Casanova, one of their teachers. He's still in their life, and they've been graduated from high school for 4 years, you know.
Nice.
Yeah, so that is different. Boy, you talk about the dances and all with COVID. My granddaughters, one of their proms was held outdoors on a tennis court because it was COVID time.
Sure. Oh, yeah.
You know, so
That's something
there's a big difference there.
Social media didn't exist. I mean, as we know it today, didn't exist
Not
in
at
the
all.
60s.
Not at all. I mean, now you see the kids, they're always looking down, you know. We talked,
Right. You
It was
talked on the
personal,
phone.
yeah.
You didn't text or whatever. My grandkids can't believe that we used phone booths. They'd never seen a phone booth. And I tell them about party lines. That you could listen
Yeah.
to people's conversations.
Yes. Or you'd pick up and say, "You've been on the phone for 20 minutes. I have to make a phone call. Could you kind of cut it short?" You try to be polite about it. But
Sure.
You had to.
What do you remember about downtown? Because it's a
Oh,
lot
loved
different
it.
today.
Loved it. I mean, it was a happening place. We had my aunt's dress shop, A&M Argentine. You had the men's store. You had drugstores. You had luncheonettes. And, of course, the Chatterbox was our hangout, especially on a Friday night. Or after football games, basketball games, you were there. It was bustling. You went downtown to meet friends. Yeah, and it's a little sad to see right now that
It is.
that doesn't have that that vibe. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Yep.
Okay.
I'm with Richard Kelly and Sis Sullivan Merrill, two of the three chair people for this event. We already interviewed Jeannie Barris, and Richard and Sis are going to explain how this event transpired. They had a lot to do with its planning.
Well, it all kind of started because we started having breakfast every second Wednesday of the month at 9 o'clock at Flo's, where you can still get a cup of coffee for 10 cents, and we are cheap.
Yes, we are.
Thrifty. Frugal.
Frugal.
All those nice words.
And we had people in our class who now don't like to go to evening functions because they either can't see or don't feel comfortable driving when their sight is semi-challenged. So we said, what are we going to do? And Jeannie came up with the fact that she could get us this place for next to nothing. So we said, okay, we'll do that. Collect some money for food. And then everybody brings a dish to pass and their own drink. So that was easy. And it seemed very amenable to everybody else. They all seemed happy about it.
And I think we're all very happy that it turned out. We turned out to
Perfect
be
day.
a beautiful day. Nice meeting with everybody and good conversation, good fellowship.
Mm-hmm.
And when we first started our 50th, that was consisted of a whole weekend. And myself personally, I got to know people on a different level, something that I probably never had time to do while we were in high school because you had town people, you had people that rode the bus, so you never intermingled with those folks unless you had a car or something. But anyways, that we had a weekend. We spent Friday night at Three Pines, and we had a big shebang at Rusty Rail on Saturday. And then Sunday, we had a nice, lovely picnic at my partner here at her house on the lake.
I thought I was going to have 20 people there that day. And I borrowed the tables from, I can't think of the funeral people in Oneida, but that was the day of the big flood in Oneida. So they got the tables we got the tables delivered to my house, so I'd have tables for the garage for everybody to sit at. And they said, no, we can't bring you chairs. So Saturday night at the banquet, I stood up there and I said, tomorrow's a BYOC day. Bring your own chairs, please. And I was estimating there were going to be 20 people there. We had 60 people there. The people in the class did not want to leave each other. And we had wives and husbands who felt welcome as if they were part of our class. And at least they told me they felt
They
like
still
they
feel
belonged.
that way.
And they're still this way. They're here now.
Yep.
Because it's
Some of
just
them
that.
also say that they enjoyed our class reunion more
Better
than they
than
did
their
their
own.
own. So that's a compliment to everybody here that's worked at it.
And unfortunately, you've lost over 25 members of the class, right?
27 is my
27?
latest count, yeah.
Including a gal that was very instrumental in the last reunion.
Yes.
Sally Snowgates was a girl who started out working very hard to make a better life for herself. Her grades were perfect, She worked at the pharmacy, local pharmacy in town, was good to everybody. She got her scholarships to Albany College of Pharmacy, where she met her husband, and they graduated with honors from there and went on to become pharmacists and worked and built a practice and raised 3 beautiful children, 2 girls and a boy. And whatever Sally did, she wanted to give back to all the people that had been part of her life, and she cared for it. That included the town of Canastota. When anybody needed money for something, they would come and ask Sally, and she would give them the money. For our reunions, we even had a yearbook that she had published. I mean, she always went for details and making everything special.
She didn't really want people to know how much money she spent.
No.
A lot of people asked her, and she would not tell.
You know, can I help out? Can I help out? No. No, I didn't spend anything. And she was just good, a good person. And it's our loss that we no longer have her with us. No longer have her with us.
At the conclusion of our 50th, I can remember how bummed out I was because everybody had to leave. And
that's the way they felt at my house too.
That's what I'm talking about.
Still there.
Because that was the last day.
I figured 20 people would show up. We had 60, and they came at noon. It's like 7:30, 8 o'clock at night, and people are still there at the house.
Yep.
And just hamburgers. I said, I've got hamburgers and water I'm feeding you. Bring something else with you. We had enough food to feed a bunch of starving people in a small country. So
I've mentioned to people that I'm looking forward to your 65th and your 70th, and they kind of laugh. And I give them my wife's advice is shoot for the Smucker's jar, shoot for the 100-year.
Yeah,
you know, and by then you're celebrating your 82nd reunion from high school.
Who knows?
So, but I want to thank you personally for inviting my wife and I and Ellen and Mark Dunbar. This has been a terrific event.
Well, we're glad you came.
Glad you came, exactly.
This pleasure's all mine.
It's a service to the community and to us.
Yes, thank you for your patience.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you very much.
I'm here with Betsy Powers, the class of 1963. And Betsy, back in the 50s and 60s, there were still families with 4, 5, 6 children or more. How many were in the Powers family?
There were 9 of us. A whole group. We had 5 girls and 4 boys.
Okay, can you name them in chronological order?
I can do that part. It was Steve, then myself, Betsy, Mike, Mary, Eileen, Francis, we call Fritz, all right, Margaret, Maggie, Patty, Patricia, and Joe. So that was our family. Yep.
And I married a Clark, and there were 8 children, and I remember the Powers and Clark families took up several pews in the St. Agatha's Church.
Yes, and those families were in a competition every Sunday morning to see who could get to the first pew first.
Mm-hmm.
And all those families, especially the Clarks and the Powerses, where their parents wanted their kids to be as close to the front of the church as possible because, first of all, you know, if you want to be a little bit nice about it, you could say they really wanted their children to learn what was going on during Mass. But the second part was that we behaved better if we were up close because we couldn't get away with too much.
That's right. I used to hide in the back of the church or go up into the balcony.
Yeah.
Okay, now, Steve was the oldest?
Yes.
When Steve was a senior, then where did everybody else, how far back would it go, to kindergarten or?
Okay, when Steve was 16 when Joe was born. Okay. So there's that age gap.
Okay.
And so he was going to one of his proms at about the time that the baby in the family was born. And so, but the irony now is that the baby, Joe, when he graduated from high school, he was about 6'3", and he grew a couple years later to 6'5". So he actually ended up being the biggest and the one that could beat everybody up if he needed to. So.
Now, did the older children have to help tend to the younger children?
Yeah, we helped. That was just a natural thing that you kind of did, you know. we were all very close in that sense. We sort of buddied up with ones that were, I mean, for example, I was the oldest daughter, so I had already learned how to take care of babies, and I could take care of a baby. So then the next oldest daughter could take care of a toddler. You know what I'm saying?
Sure, sure.
And we would help mom out with the kids, take them places, and play with them and that kind of thing. So
Laundry must have been interesting. And,
laundry was
and,
a pile.
and meals and
and meals, yeah. And I got teased when I was asked if I wanted a dishwasher in my home. I said, well, what do I need a dishwasher for a couple of people? I said, I grew up washing dishes for 11.
That's right.
So, but, dishwashers are great, though.
And now I haven't asked this question very often this afternoon, but if you had to pick one memory of CHS, what would it be?
I think I'm not sure that I have one particular memory, but I have an overall concept of what I think about it. And it's really based on reflection now, after years of raising children and helping out with grandchildren and going to all their functions. So, for example, one of my granddaughters is in a class her class alone is 400 people. And, just our entire school wouldn't have been that many people. My reflection is this, that growing up in a small town with a smaller school, there's something very, very special about having people that you get to know who they are. Like for us, for example, we know everybody in our class. And even if we weren't friends with every single person or in the same groups or, going to the same church or whatever have you, today in our lives, we know that every single person in that class had an influence on our lives. And I don't know too many people that can say that.
That's true.
So, I loved my high school years. And we had just the most special class. And every single person had an influence on me, whether or not I was best friends with them. You know what I'm saying?
Sure, sure.
So that's the part that really means a lot.
And speaking of special classes, I had a classmate recently that said, why didn't you pick our class to do this with? I said, I didn't think of it, to be honest with you. And I said, but when I did think of doing a class, this was the first one that came to mind. Class of 63 and class of 62 would be right up there.
Yeah, they were a
the
great
same
class too.
Yeah.
My brother Mike's class.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much.
62 was above us. So
62, right.
Yeah.
They're a year older.
Yeah,
But, maybe because they were upperclassmen, when I came in as a freshman, I'm a little, 5-foot pipsqueak and whatever. And, the juniors at that time, which would have been your class, they were just great to us. Just we were like little brothers. And
they're
whatever.
great people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it.
Okay.
Start again? Yeah. Okay. I'm with John S. That would be Sebastian Patney. John, you were involved in a lot of community activities after high school and your college years. Was there any connection between your childhood and being a student at CHS and activities you got involved in?
To some degree. After I got out of high school, or while I was a senior, I started thinking, we used to spend our summers in Lake George 1 week or maybe 2 weeks. And I thought, wouldn't it be nice to have a lot of these things near where we live so we can enjoy them all year round? And it kind of planted some seeds in my mind about maybe doing something community improvement in Canastota. My father was a successful attorney, well-loved attorney in Canastota. And I thought, well, maybe I can take it to the next level and go to community. He was involved in the community. He helped charter the Lions Club and a lot of other things, the Civic Club. But I thought maybe I can carry it to a little bit higher level. So I started thinking about what attributes we had in Canastota. And at the same time, during the summer months in college, I worked for the village, the DPW, a job I loved. At that time, we had all the streets in Canastota were were paved on both sides, not paved, but covered with giant elm trees. And I love trees, I love shade. I don't like sitting in the hot sun. So that's why I planted trees. All my life I planted trees and enjoyed, in later years, enjoyed the fruits of the labor, being the shade primarily, and some fruits like apple trees and pear trees and all that. So, but when I worked for the village, I ran this, the Dutch elm disease had just come about. So they put me, Rocky DeVeronica was the DPW superintendent, and he put me on this machine that looked like a giant cement mixer in front of me with a seat. But what it was a giant blower with a giant fan with a nozzle in the middle that shot insecticide spray, which might have been DDT at the time, straight up to the point where I could wave. When I was running it, I would make the trees sway. The tops of the 100-foot elm trees would sway with the spray when the spray was atomized with a fan and hit the trees. So then I saw the Dutch elm problem come through, and all those trees were cut down. And so I've tried to promote tree planting since then. Now we've got the emerald ash borer. Mm-hmm. So as I was thinking of this, I was thinking I joined the JCs, which was the junior, we called it the Junior Conservation Club, or the Junior Chamber of Commerce in those days. I also joined the Canastota Conservation Club when I was 14 and was a long-time member of that group. We did a lot of wildlife-related activities, habitat improvement. But I looked beyond at some of the other things that might be possible. And Rocky put me working on the Erie Canal to clean the canal because it was a garbage dump. It was a place people threw garbage right through the middle of the village. They had covered, Bill Sharp, when he was mayor, wanted to cover the whole canal. Fortunately, they didn't do that. But they did cover, and I think I might have even remembered when they were covering the canal from Peterboro Street toward where the Canal Museum is today. Mm-hmm. And actually, there's a giant tree there, talk about trees. Bill Sharp planted a little tree they call a sunburst locust. Mm-hmm. And that tree today is about 70 feet high. You can see it right behind the key bank. But it's no longer sunburst locust because they have yellow leaves, and it did what they call revert. It reverted back to green. But while working the canal, people, I guess, associated me with the canal, and they, a fellow by the name of Farrell Miller from Canastota, he had a large family, was the president of JC's possibly at the time. You could be in JC's till you were 35 years old, and then you were kicked out of JC's at the age of 35. So it was a young man's organization, and it was for community improvement. So one day, Farrell Miller came to me with this green book that said, feasibility study for the Erie Canal State Park. It was before there was a state park. We had, during the summer months, we had cleared the canal trail. We mowed a little bit of it, only it wasn't a trail then, it was just the old towpath. But at least we opened it up so people could maybe take a stroll along it, and people fish from it. And I threatened one woman who lived there, this poor woman, an older woman, and she used to take her garbage out every day and throw it in the canal. So one day I talked to her and I said, you know, you can get arrested for that, and it terrified her. So she stopped throwing garbage in the canal. But we had a crew. I was in charge of a crew of 10 young boys, Canastota students, Mike DeBalso, who's since passed, Chuck Emmy, Richie Stankovitz, and forgive me, I can't think all the names right now off the top of my head, but I think I had them for 2 years. They gave us an old fire truck to drive, like a 1934 fire truck that you had trouble shifting the gears on, and we cleaned the canal. We put a boat in the canal, a rowboat. We dragged stuff out of the canal. We cleaned the banks. We cut the banks. We mowed the lawn. And I got associated apparently with the Erie Canal. So Farrell Miller came up to me with a feasibility study for the Erie Canal, for an Erie Canal State Park. It was nothing at that time. I also worked at the time, or shortly thereafter, with the Madison County Planning Board, and I did a report on trails and a recreation plan for Madison County that included converting the canals and the railroads to trails so that it would make a circumventual route around the entire Madison County.
Right.
Using the old Lehigh Valley Railroad to Casanova, using the railroad came out of East Syracuse to Erieville, using the old O&W Railroad and the Shenango Canal coming down towards Oneida. And so that was, and actually that's come to fruition, a lot of it, over the years.
Sure.
But I digress. So, so now we're talking about this old Erie Canal State Park. So I said, can I hold a minute?
Yeah, sure.
What?
She's really going.
Huh? Are you just cut off?
No. We'll get back. Okay, Erie Canal
All right.
State Park.
What was I going to say?
That's John's better half over there.
Yeah, threw me off track. So we're forming. So Farrell Miller came to me, and he opened the book, the feasibility study, and it showed a picture of Canal Street in Canastota, and the report said somewhere along the Erie Canal State Park should be a canal town, and Canastota would be the place to establish a canal town.
And what year would that be?
Probably 1969,
Okay.
68, 67, somewhere in that range. And I said, let's do it. So we formed a committee of JCs to form a community committee to create Canal Town, Canastota Canal Town Corporation. We formed the Canastota Canal Town Corporation. One of our first presidents was Wheeler Milmo, who had been a state senator.
Sure.
Wheeler and I went to a meeting where they were talking about state funding for the arts, and we wanted to get some money for Canal Town a few years later after we formed the group. And I thought to myself, yeah, Wheeler, that was years ago. This is not today. Nobody knows you anymore, right? And so Wheeler and I are standing there, and the senator comes in the building, into the room, and the first thing he says is, Wheeler! So apparently I was
So it had some pull.
I apparently don't understand humanity that well. But so we formed the Canal Town Group. Canastota Canal Town Corporation was basically born when Farrell Miller came to me and said, should we make a canal town in Canastota? And that's how it was formed. Farrell Miller was the first president, and we sent out information to gain membership. Then we had a feasibility study for Canal Town, and it said we need something visible.
Right.
They suggested a museum. And they identified the old historic bakery building owned by Miko Albanese.
Oh, sure, yeah.
So we raised monies, we bought that building, and we developed it into a museum. We had to rehab the building, we had to gut the building. I remember Carl Bigelow working there quite a bit. We tore siding off, we cleaned it out, it was full of junk and everything. And I just had a woman the other day, Marlene Parlow, who now has a bakery and bakes pies on Center Street.
Right.
Told me when she was a young girl, I commandeered her and Felicia, it'll come to me in a minute. He lived on High Street. Cox.
Okay.
Felicia
Yes.
Cox.
Okay, Phil Cox.
They were high school kids, and I commandeered them to help clean out the basement of that building. And that was 60s.
Yeah.
And today, a couple of weeks ago, 2023, she recognized me.
Wow.
She asked me if I was the one.
Wow.
But I'll finish this up. We cleaned the building out. One more thing, one more volunteer. Because we tried to get people to volunteer all the time through JCs and others. And this one guy came up, and I had him work, and he was very avidly interested in it. He was a historic guy, a history guy, very interested, very excited about the whole project, but he had to get home to his wife. So he said, I can work for a little while, then I got to go. So I said, all right. Well, then I got to go. And then he worked a little longer. I got to go. And he worked a little longer. Then finally he said, I really got to go. And he drove away. And his car, 5 minutes later, his car pulled back up in front of the building, museum. And he yelled out, Jones says I could stay.
I thought you were talking about Joe DiGiorgio.
No, you know, that was Joe DiGiorgio.
I thought
so. I could claim fame. I got Joe involved in the Canastota Canal Town Corporation.
Now,
the rest is history.
I didn't plan it this way. You're the last person interviewed today for this class of 63, 60th reunion. But these interviews that we've done are in connection with the Canal Museum, Canal Town. So, perfect segue, right?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
I had more stories, but we'll do another day.
I was going to say, she's anxious. She wants to.
Yeah, always anxious. Always anxious. You're still recording?
Sure.
One more thought.
But you can edit.
One more thought. One more thought. I'm going to put this.
Okay.
Someday I'll put it. I'll post it on Facebook. But while we were developing the Canal Town Corporation, I had this brainstorm that why don't we make it a real resort destination? And I sent a letter to these people. I said, why don't you have something out on the West Coast? Why don't you develop something on the East Coast like you have on the West Coast? And bring it to Canastota, where we have a Canal Town corporation, a Canal Town we're trying to develop, a historic village. Why don't you bring your activity to Canastota and on the East Coast, because you have something on the West Coast? And I got a denial. They said, well, we're really busy out here. We can't do that. And I got the letter. I found the letter after 40 years. It's signed by Roy Disney.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Cool.
So someday I'll put that on Facebook.
Very nice. Thank you.
That's
a couple of people just walked by and they're staring at you, and they probably think we're on some network television
or Candid
show.
Camera or
the
something.
Candid Camera or whatever, yeah.
And Ross is doing a good job, by the way.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Flows was mentioned earlier during one of the interviews, and I thought maybe that Flows should have sponsored this event. Many of these class of 63 members make a weekly or monthly luncheon date at Flows. And someone told me Flows is the only place they know of where you can go for the feature and leave a 50% tip and walk away having only spent 15 cents, because it's still the home of the 10-cent coffee. Leave a 50% tip, that's only a nickel. But I would like to take this opportunity to thank Ellen and Mark Dunbar for once again volunteering their time, their equipment, their expertise. This has been fun, and it's to be continued. We're going to take a tour later this month at the Peterboro Street Elementary School, which was the high school that I attended, and of course the class of 1963. Thank you. Hello again, I'm Ross Stagnitti with Canal Town Commentary. Last month I interviewed members of the Canastota High School class of 1963. This morning I'll be touring the Peterboro Street School with classmates Jean Barris Taylor, Craig Taylor, and Richard Kelly. Above me you can see it indicates this was the girls' entrance when this was a high school, and on the opposite side, on the north side of this building, engraved is the word boys. And we were expected to use separate entrances. I'm sure that there were some people who from time to time violated the rules. I've always wondered whether or not we were supposed to use separate staircases to get to classes. I would imagine it had something to do with girls back in the 40s, 50s, and 60s wore dresses and they wore skirts, and probably they want the boys using the other entrances and the other staircases. Just a theory, don't really remember. Okay, introducing three members of the class of 1963. On the left is Craig Taylor. In the center, Jeannie Barris Taylor, no relation. And on the right is Richard Kelly. By the way, Richard Kelly has two great, I emphasize great, grandchildren who are coming to school here in a couple of weeks. In fact, he has a great granddaughter who will be in pre-K and a great grandson who will be in kindergarten. This building went from being a high school starting in 1927 to being an elementary school, and now they have the very first groups of students that come into this system. We're looking at a poster with photos and names of recent deceased members of the class of 1963. These folks went up these stairs many times. In fact, these stairs were for seniors only. That was the only senior privilege I can remember. But yeah, these were a great group of people, and we miss them dearly. Oh my goodness! Wow.
The storage at the back of the gym is as of the last capital project that we did. And then the wrestling mats are behind the interactive display screen, because the wrestling teams still practice here in the evening. So, yeah, so that's.
Well, so the wrestling team is still here, huh?
They are,
Wow.
yes, until the completion of the next capital project, when
Okay.
I think they'll be able to accommodate them over there.
Right, right.
Our wrestling room isn't quite ready. We've been storing some things in there just because it's summer and it's a little bit crazy, but yeah, yep. So normally, the mats are down and
Sure.
the kids are here in the afternoon. Definitely modified, and then JV and varsity sometimes too, so.
Wow.
Right?
This is still the gymnasium.
Right.
It's in the basement.
Because it was the balcony, and that was the prime thing about it. That was so great. You could stand around here and, like I said, the girls used to play volleyball, and we would hit the balls, and I can remember a few times accidentally balls would go up and over the balcony, and then we'd have to go upstairs and get the ball. So that was one of my fun things. And then in the evenings, wrestling matches were hanging out around the balcony watching them wrestle.
And all of our dances, our junior proms.
That's right,
senior
we're
balls,
here.
Spectators could line up above the balcony there.
And we'd be down here. Yes.
And once we even played basketball game, and Mr. Hazlitt was our informal coach, and we were scorching around, and Mr. Hazlitt took the ball, and he tried to hit my hand, and left a dent in the wall board. So that's one little funny story.
So it wasn't the pass, he was trying to hit him in the head with it.
Now, I remember stories about kids that would climb a rope up to the balcony, and then they would kind of swing around, or
That I don't ever remember.
that must have been my class then.
No, yeah, maybe. I don't think we ever had rope climbing here. I know we did over at Robert Street, but not here, in the gym.
Right. Well, they played high school basketball in this gym.
Right.
That was before our time, I believe, because by then we were at Robert Street,
Right.
with a brand new gymnasium. In fact, I believe the Syracuse Nationals NBA basketball team played an exhibition game here.
Wow,
And
that
the
I
thing I
didn't know.
remember was, you'd run down the court, and if you're running too fast, you could grab onto one of these posts and swing around and go back down to the other end of the basketball court.
I did not know that.
That I did not know either.
What do you folks remember about who was in the various areas around the gym?
I was trying to remember that. Girls' locker room was
There was
over
a
here.
chemistry
but that's
teacher.
all. Cafeteria was here.
So that whole wall.
So that whole wall was, right there was all cafeteria, and
No,
probably,
that was,
There were some classrooms.
it was a classroom.
who was
Mike
in there?
Tornator.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Mike Tornator taught geometry, and he was also
Okay.
a driver ed.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
right, too.
Um,
Right, that's right, too. Mike Tornator and Drivers, that's right.
and I believe, yeah, the school dances were down here.
Correct.
What do you remember about proms and senior ball and all that kind of stuff? That was here.
Yes. All right, I didn't go to the junior.
We would
I went to
decorate
the
the
senior.
whole
We did
gym,
decorate, yes.
spray paper all over the place with usually a big center ball or whatever. And,
These I-beams weren't here. This was all
No.
wide open.
It was all open. It was
And
all
the
open.
balcony around it, it's hard to even imagine what it was like. There's one junior prom that I remember in particular. It involved my class, and the prom was scheduled for November 22nd, 1963. And at 1:30 in the afternoon, I was upstairs for Spanish class, I
Right.
believe, and the announcement came over that President Kennedy had been shot, and eventually he passed away. And I was on the junior prom committee, and a group of us had to meet with the principal that afternoon to decide what we were going to do. And Richard Fertini remembers the details better than I do. He remembered the name of the decorating company that came here to decorate the gymnasium for the prom. But anyway, make a long story short, we decided, I always think it's the girls that decided to have the prom. We may have had the only social event in the United States of America on that date, but we did have the prom on November 22nd, 1963. It was a great place for proms. I mean, it was, you know, you could decorate and the parents would come up
Everybody
and
could watch from up there, that's right. Yeah.
Very comfortable,
Yes.
had a good time. So no reason to go to these big places.
No, that's true. That's true.
Yeah.
No limousines, you didn't ride any limousines?
No, we borrowed a friend's car.
So Craig's got the same look on his face I remember from 60 years ago.
I don't wake up until around 2 o'clock. I wake up just in time for my nap. I have an interesting thing here. This used to be
Lockers over there. Boys downstairs.
the boys' gym,
Yes.
cellar here. And in there was the boys' room. And that's where they broke into the school one night, and they had Happy Halloween. And they put Happy Halloween on the floor here in chalk. And so kids broke in and they didn't do any damage. They just put a Halloween joke. And Mr. McLean made everyone in the announcement in the morning. He said to everyone, I want you to get a half sheet of paper out and write to spell Halloween. So we all knew if we spelled it, it was spelled wrong. So we all spelled it wrong so that he could never figure out who ever did it. But they did. There used to be a window right here by the. Right back in there, and they unlocked the window, and they came in. That's how they got in. But this room right here is a very special meeting to me. This was the boys' change room where we, after gym, would take showers. And this is the room I broke both my arms in.
You broke both your arms?
Yeah, at the same time. And I was lifting the barbell.
Explain how that
I was lifting the barbell, and I stepped back, and I tripped over a scale. And I came down, and I caught the barbell, and broke this arm, and I'm laying there, and the barbell's on top of me, and I couldn't move. And all the kids ran out, because if you're late for class, you have to stay at the school. So all the kids ran out and just left me on the floor.
Now, you corroborated Duke Emmy's story about Halloween.
Yes.
And Duke went on to say that, there was one evening that a group of students got into the school and they dismantled somebody's classroom and put it on the roof.
Yeah.
Any truth to that?
Yes. They took Miss Becky's chair, her desk?
I'm sorry?
I think they took Miss Becky's desk and put it up on the roof, didn't they?
I have no inside information, but you seem to have a lot of inside information.
Yeah, it was Miss Becky's, and they took...
Whose Volkswagen was the one that got put over on the other side of the racks out there? Was it Miss Steele?
I guess I was absent.
I didn't even know about that.
The boys did it. I know the boys.
It was pretty funny, actually. We all came in, and we're all standing around, everyone in the school standing around the balcony looking at the Happy Halloween spell wrong.
Well, I had an uncle who probably 10 years before I was in school apparently did the same thing. Dismantled Miss Mackey's classroom, put it on the roof. And I think once she saw my name on the list, she remembered the family. And I always thought that she took it out on me as well.
Miss Mackey was very good about doing that, though, because she did that with my sisters and my brothers. My mom went through his school. My aunts and my uncles all went through here. So when the Barris came in, she knew who we were. And Uncle Kenny was only like 5 years behind me. So she knew that. But then when my brother Michael and my sister Linda came in, she remembered me and used it against them.
Yeah? Okay.
Especially against my brother Michael. Yeah, she was very good at keeping you within the family.
Yes.
She couldn't teach work,
No.
She used to have a test every day, have a little test. Then she never wanted anyone to get 100 on it. Listen, what's the fourth word on page 4 of the Wikipedia?
Yes.
We're going to try to figure out where some of these teachers' rooms when we go to the other levels.
Right.
And I think
I know Miss Mackey was in the far corner over here. The library was in the
Aberson was on the other side. Aberson and then Daniels.
Okay.
That I remember. I do not. Miss Firth, I believe, was on the second floor in the
I
corner.
think she was, yep.
Well, let's head upstairs.
Okay.
And those stairs right there, remember Bill Sharp?
Yes.
How did you forget Bill Sharp?
He used to, one time, he was a wrestling coach.
Right.
And he used to walk on his hands, and he walked his hands all through here, and he walked right up those stairs on his hands. He just walked that down.
Now, were you wrestling? Were you
No,
wrestling?
no,
I know Fran Bettino was a wrestler in our class.
Yes. I was in between the news and the Tackleberries, and there was no such thing even trying.
Well, we had the news. I know Donnie News, and I know Fran Bettino. My brother was wrestler.
Right, sure.
Michael was a wrestler. Yeah.
I wrestled in my senior year.
Yeah.
I was on Tucker.
Right.
Tucker was in there.
Okay.
Anthony Ronaldo comes to mind. I can't think of.
Yeah, we had quite a few wrestlers.
You've been wrestling, is it?
Senior year.
Is it?
Yeah.
Very good.
Okay.
For hours, right in the middle of the muck. I had no idea where I was. And Mary Lou Breed and her mother come driving by, and they looked at me, and I was beat red, and I was all tired and hot and thirsty, and they said, "Where are you going, little boy?" And I said, "I'm lost." So they took me up and took me home. But they never bothered to tell me where the school buses were. I mean, it's a tough life.
Well, I can tell you a story about it.
I got a note from Mary Lou. Matter of fact, a couple of weeks ago, and she says she calls me Lost Boy, and I wrote her back. I said I still love him.
This is the current principal at Peterboro Street School. Again, pre-K through first. This is Jenny Carnahan, and she's been very gracious in allowing us to roam the halls and reminisce about what life was like in the 1960s. Our next subject is going to be Richard.
Yes.
I got a question for Richard. It's a trivia question. And then I've got a more serious question I'll follow up with.
Okay.
We always refer to the principal as D.R. McLean.
Right.
And do you recall what D.R. stood for?
David Robert.
Ooh, wow. Absolutely.
Not because I visited him very often.
That was my follow-up question.
Oh, okay. But I did visit him on maybe 2 occasions, and I remember seeing some of my friends' names carved on his desk.
Oh.
And that would be Mo Frasina and Jack Sorsey. There probably was others, but I didn't really take time to gaze around because I kind of had to pay attention to the matter at hand.
What was the matter at hand?
I don't remember. I just don't recall.
Oh, I know what it was. Cinnamon sticks, cinnamon toothpicks. I don't know.
Craig's name wasn't carved in the.
I didn't see it.
And Jeannie Barris, of course.
I was a good kid.
And if I did, I wouldn't reveal it at this time.
Very good. Thank you.
Okay.
I can tell you a story about school buses, though. When I was starting school in kindergarten, our house, we had a farm, and our house sat in the town of Lenox. The dirt road that got to our farm was in the city of Oneida. The city of Oneida went right past our road. They did not want to send the school bus down our road to pick us up. Canastota said, okay, and they sent the school bus all the way out to our farm and picked me up and took me to Wampsville, and then from Wampsville to Canastota.
Wow.
So Oneida lost out on 8 kids worth of school aid.
Wow.
For many years.
Now, buses back then.
For 1 mile.
Right, but buses back then are basically for Clockville, for Whitelaw,
Correct.
for, you had
That's
to live
correct.
several miles out of town.
That's right. And
Correct.
our bus was my picking us up, and then we went to Wampsville and picked up kids to come into Canastota.
Because
So we came on the farm to market or the canal road back into Canastota.
I only rode the bus in kindergarten. I went to the public library for a semester, then the new Southside School, and those were the only 2 places I remember taking a bus to. When first grade started, I wasn't that far away, but I was out West Lewis Street, had to walk from there to Robert Street from first grade on.
Right.
So there weren't as many buses.
I did not go to Robert Street until 3rd grade.
First and second grade was in Websville at a one-room schoolhouse.
Oh, wow.
And we had 8 grades in our school, which was really cool.
Yeah.
Felt like a little house on the prairie.
Well, we'll take a quick shot down this hallway. And you've got your wonderful husband who's, he doesn't remember this as a high school, obviously.
Oh, yeah, I was here for a year. Not as a high school, but as a
Elementary school. What grade?
5th or 6th, something like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, it's
Oh,
changed.
so it was when it was like middle school.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, this is the hallway on the south side of the building, the main floor. And we're in agreement that there was at least one science room here. Madge Snyder taught biology on one of these rooms to the right. In fact, I believe that there was an accident in one of these science labs. There was an explosion of some sort. I don't remember all the details, but
Mrs. Abrams.
so.
That's the downstairs.
Oh, well, then we'll go up the upstairs.
Okay, up
I
the
would
south
like to
side.
share
Don't
one
wanna
story
get in trouble with
with
the
you
principal.
Okay.
about Mr. Waldo. And I used to be his paper boy. And so he kind of knew me from previous years. And the first day of his class, I walked in the door with everyone else, and he said, "You, up here, in front of my desk." So I gladly went there, and he proceeded to write on the blackboard that the price of freedom is eternal vigilance. I never forgot that to this day.
Wow, wonderful.
But he was a great teacher, and after several years, I used to meet him at McDonald's in the morning for coffee, and he would ask me to do some math problems so he could figure out how much money he made on his stocks.
Mr. Waldo was my next door neighbor, and he tried very hard to get me to try out for golf, and I wanted no part of it. All I wanted to do was go out in the backyard and hit balls as far as I could, and without much accuracy. And about 30 years later, I thought of Mr. Waldo. I wish I had listened to him because
Yes.
I've never been much of a golfer.
Right.
Try as I may. Yeah. Okay, let's we'll head upstairs.
Okay.
But Silk Denner was somewhere in here. He was the guidance counselor, right? Okay. Oh, the other. Okay. These people have better memories than I do. That's why I brought them along.
Okay, so this is first. We'll make it this first.
Yeah, that was so good.
And she was history.
Hey, correct me if I'm wrong. I think this area was all enclosed, no
It was.
windows, and it was a study hall.
Study hall, and on the other side was the library.
No air conditioning.
Miss Martin and the library.
Right. No air conditioning, no windows.
Right. And that was the
And-
study hall.
Yeah.
Seems like there was 2 study halls.
There was, I believe.
One here and one adjacent.
Right.
And then the library.
And yeah,
Right.
The library was way in the back.
way in the back.
And the library, I think, originally was like an auditorium with a
Used to be a
stage or
stage.
whatever.
Yes.
It was elevated somewhat.
Right. Whoop, Miss Firth fell on the floor.
Oh, yeah, Miss Martin was a longtime
Librarian.
librarian and yearbook advisor.
Correct.
Did a great job.
She did.
Now Jeannie's going to show us where
Miss Firth.
Miss Firth's room was, and she was one of the most beloved teachers, right?
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
We had her for, I don't know how many people had her. Everybody had her.
I had her.
Yeah.
In fact, one year, she came up to me after we got our Regents marks, and they were posted on the wall, and I came up, and well, it was downstairs at the time they were posted. And I was looking at the marks, and she came up to me, she said, "Why, you brat." I said, "Really?" I said, "What'd I do?" She says, "Well, I went over your paper, and I tried to find everything that I could to mark off, but you still passed." That's wonderful news.
You know, it just dawned on me. She looks like our governor today.
Oh, like.
Gotta get a shot of Miss Firth.
Yeah.
She looks like Kathy Hochul.
A little bit.
Right.
Dark hair and everything, yep.
All we talked about with her was the New York Yankees. If you don't like the Yankees, I'm not going to pass you. And my brother's a priest. Oh, well, that was nice. So.
But yeah, she was a diehard Yankee fan. In fact, most people in Canastota were diehard Yankee fans.
Oh, she was terrible.
She would put like there's a picture of the Yankees, and if they lost the World Series, she'd put a black drape over it. Eddie Marchetti that ran the meat stand over there at the fruit store, he'd do the same thing. I got tired of Yankee fans. That's why I turned out to be a Braves fan. But she was great.
She was
you
a
know.
good teacher. I mean,
Very
yeah.
good teacher.
She put me into history. I really loved history because of her.
How you doing?
Good morning.
Good. We're a bunch of old timers are here reminiscing about when this was a high school.
Well, you know what? I went to school here when it was 5th and 6th grade. I'm a 1980 graduate.
5th and 6th. Wow. And now it's pre-K, K, and 1.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I've been teaching her a long time, so yes.
So you could say things went down after we left.
He said things
There
have
you
gone down
go.
after we
Yes,
left,
yes.
From high school down to the mid.
It's down. All right, Miss First, say goodbye.
Okay.
Mr. Moore.
Mr. Moore.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
English, right?
Another great teacher.
English.
He was
Great English.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Clint Moore?
Yes.
Clint Moore.
Yeah.
And his suit was always perfect. His tie was never ruffled, or shirt was always crisp. Nice, clean, short haircut. Not quite like mine. His was a lot smoother and a lot more precise.
All four of them.
Yes.
Now, who was down this quarter? You guys have better memories than I do.
This was study hall.
This was
This
study
study
hall.
hall.
Study on the side, there's studies all on the other
The
side.
study halls are so big, you could
Yeah.
easily sneak out, you'd get on your full.
Where was Mr. Coulton, business law, business? He was on this side, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so he had
So he was
business here, and then
business.
he had typing downstairs. Because maybe I'm wrong.
I think typing was up on this
Okay.
floor.
Yeah, it was.
Typing and shorthand and business law.
The typing was down in the last.
Was down
last
here in the
door.
last,
Yeah,
yes,
that was typing.
Okay.
yes. And then business law and I had business law and,
Yeah, I had
Yes.
this lot too.
with Mr. Coulton, right? Yes.
So there was
That's all I
no,
remember.
This is the boys' room where we all used to smoke. And we used to open up the windows, and Ronnie for fire used to tie a thread on a cigarette and hang it out the window so he wouldn't smell smoke. And then he had a little piece of gum or something, he stuck the gum there, let the cigarette go down. So then Miss Flip would stand out here and she'd come in and throw us all out, stand in front of the door and block us. But when we'd run in there, we'd get a hold of the string, the thread, and pull the cigarette up, have a cigarette, then put it back down again.
Craig, when my wife found out that you were going to be in on this today, she said, terrific, he'll have all the stories you can handle.
Oh, I got a few.
So, way down at the other end,
Far end was Miss Mackey.
it was Miss Mackey's. You want to
Right.
put her picture down there?
I don't believe we have Miss Mackey.
No, we don't.
Oh, we
And
don't.
Everson and Daniels.
We don't have this. Oh, gee. We have Gert Daniels.
We have Daniels. and
Where was
she-
her classroom? On the other
They
side?
are on the other
Okay,
side,
We'll head to the
next
other
to
side.
Everson.
We'll tell a couple stories there.
What did Nowakowski teach? Do you remember?
He was
Remember the name?
general science.
Didn't he
General science. And,
Okay. General science?
you know, remember what special ed used to be like? I can't remember what room it was, but the special ed room was like a holding tank. I mean, it's completely different now. And it was, you know, they hired somebody.
We didn't have special
No?
ed.
No, okay.
They went to the library, I think. I think that's where
Yeah,
the special
yeah.
ed was.
I mean, it was.
I don't remember any special ed with us. But Averson was down. Averson
Yeah.
and then Daniels.
Now, you know who was in this room, I believe? If not this one, the next one was, remember Bob Keenan taught English?
Yes.
Okay.
Grade English.
Yeah,
Couldn't
okay.
think
I got a quick story to tell about Bob Keenan. I try to keep it as clean as I can. Bob, you were talking about Clint Moore, always impeccably dressed and whatever,
Oh,
tie
okay.
was always on him. Bob Keenan was anything but. Right? He was kind of disheveled, I guess, for lack of a better
Oh,
word.
the seersucker suit.
Yeah, always, you know, he'd walk into the classroom and sometimes his shirt was sticking out and you could, whatever. Well, he walked in one day and a couple of us realized that his fly was wide open. So he walks in before the rest of the class could realize what had happened. He thought quickly and he said, "Go to the window." So we all jumped out of our seats, ran to the window, stood there for a while, said, okay, you can come back and sit in your seats. We weren't about to come back and sit in our seats because we thought this was something that he had planned. A couple of us knew why he sent us to the window. Well, as we were at the window, there were a couple of dogs that were having fun, let's put it that way. And it took a while for him to get us back in our seats. But it gave him time to zip up his pants. But he's a great teacher. He was a great, that was my junior year, so we had to take the Regents.
Right.
And he got me through the Regents. He had to be a great teacher.
Yeah.
Don't be so
Well,
hard
you know
on
something
yourself.
about Regents? That's something that a lot of people throughout the other states don't realize.
That's right.
Regents is a really important thing. I ended up in business. I ended up with 2 diplomas, high school, Canastota High School diploma, and a Regents diploma.
Right.
Not everybody can do that anymore.
I used to obsess over the Regents.
Regents
it was do or die,
Right, it was.
I didn't
Yeah,
want to
but
go
on
to
the
summer
same end, you could flunk all year long and then pass the Regents.
True.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah. Double-edged sword.
Now, we've got, one more stop. We'll go down to Mrs. Abramson. It was Miss Abramson.
Miss Averson. Miss Averson.
She was a
Miss
good, well, I
Daniels.
liked her, she was a good teacher.
No, it's Mrs. Averson. She was married, and this is Miss.
Did she
All right,
ever
Miss
date?
Daniels was,
So you think
Yeah.
Miss Daniels was there?
I'm
I
thinking,
remember having Miss Daniels at one point downstairs.
was she downstairs? I
I'm
thought she
not
was up
sure
here.
all the time.
All right, ninth grade,
'Cause I
it's
remember-
ninth grade algebra.
I remember
No,
one year
she
it was so
did-
hot,
No, she
World
taught,
Series time.
she did teach.
This was Gert
Yeah,
Daniels.
she did this,
Taught math.
I see, I didn't do trig and I
Yeah,
didn't
she
do.
did, yeah.
You know what I remember her doing right over here in the study hall was tutoring Duke Emmy in math.
Oh.
She
And
was
it worked
very
because he
good
became a
about
math
that.
teacher.
She got me
Was
through.
Yeah,
she's the best teacher I ever had.
Yeah,
Yes.
she's
Yes,
great.
I would not have passed algebra if it wasn't for
No,
her.
she did, you
Right.
had the ability, she'd bring you in after school, and
That's
sit in the
Right,
study hall, and
right.
she'd beat it into you. And
Right.
She,
Yes,
no,
she
she
was.
was a really,
She
no,
really
she
good.
was really.
And everybody passed the Regents.
Yeah.
Very few people failed it.
I don't think she ever, yeah, I don't.
Yep, yep.
She absolutely.
And then Mrs. Averson was English and Latin.
And so she was down at the other
I know
end.
she was at the end of the hallway, because I remember going, and I remember her room, because I had Latin 1, and it would be right after lunch, and the radiators would start popping, and we sound like popcorn going off, and she's trying to teach
I
Latin.
don't remember Latin. I didn't know.
Mr.
I took Spanish.
Tornator
You took.
taught math.
No hablo español.
Tornator taught,
Yeah.
he taught
No
geometry.
hablo
I don't know what else.
muy bien, senor. The only reason I can say this, I lived in Southern California for 25
Oh,
years.
okay.
But yeah, Mrs. Averson definitely was
Now,
Latin 1.
Show us
Latin.
Miss Abramson's. I keep saying Miss Abramson's picture.
This is
Okay, I got a story about Miss Abramson.
Okay.
She was our class advisor in 1965, and we had a meeting in her room, and we had to decide who we were going to dedicate the yearbook to. And I thought, well, maybe let's just do something different. This was the last year this building was going to be a high school. Let's dedicate it to the building and all the memories that went with it. And she said, and I'll try to imitate her voice, "You cannot dedicate a building. You cannot dedicate a building because it's an inanimate object." And somebody in the back of the room goes, "Guess that rules you out." And at our 50th reunion, I tried to find out who said that, and nobody would confess. But she was a good teacher.
She was a very good teacher.
Yes.
I mean, these were
Yes. All of
lifers.
we were lucky. We had a whole bunch of really, really good long-term teachers. Yes, yes.
Well, let me jump in here because I'd like to thank the 3 members of the class of 63. We probably could tell stories till the cows come home. And I'd also like to thank the Dunbars, Ellen, who's been the videographer, and her husband, Mark, who's her sidekick. They donate their time, their equipment. They've been wonderful for Canal Town. So thanks again. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.